my name is Brescia and this is So Meta.
So Meta.
Hi, I'm Luca, your host here at So Meta. I'm also a coach and hypnotherapist at LucaMindCoach.com, and today I'm here with Brescia Bianco-Badenhorst. Brescia, thank you so much for joining me today. Brescia is a mom, a wife, but she's also a drug addiction and mental health advocate with an amazing story to share. Thank you so much for coming on So Meta.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Luca.
So, I read a few things about you. Your story is quite intense. And before getting into that, I just would like to know what you do today to help other people, because I know you're passionate about supporting other people.
Sure, Luca, that's an emotional question that you ask me because I do a lot. Just purely through my advocacy work, so many people I find feel very comfortable in just sharing their stories with me. I think that is the difference in opening yourself up to being vulnerable, allowing others to see that vulnerability and for them to have a safe space to also share their hurts with you. So I do try and support anyone best I can, whether it is for addiction, being in active addiction, or those struggling with mental health issues, and also those that have lost people that have passed on due to suicide, which I can relate to. I think the best thing that I can do is just offer a listening ear, Luca, and that is just what I stand for and what I want to do. And I know you are in the same space as well.
Yes, that's true. I mean, that's lovely, and I can relate to that. I think sometimes people think that public speakers or therapists or people that are out there are offering help and advice, sometimes they just have everything put together, you know. I think there's this kind of expectation that these people are perfect and they have no issue. But it's actually the opposite. It's often like we come from a very deep and personal struggle, but we realize that helping each other and giving support to somebody in need can actually be so profoundly life-changing for them. And that's why we want to do that work, because we've been there ourselves. So it's not that we are perfect. We came to earth with no issues and we just want to be giving. We are giving because we've been there before, so we know how important that work is.
Absolutely. There's a quote that makes me think of what you just said. It says we have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. And I think that is just how I want to be portrayed as you can come, I can listen. I might not have all the advice, but I can be there for you because I do know what it feels like to be down and out and not have someone to talk to.
Yeah. And that's very important, because sometimes we think that we need to have everything figured out in order to help somebody. And sometimes that's just not the case. You know, sometimes we just need to be there for someone. I actually learned that the hard way, in a way.
Hi, this is Luca from So Meta. I want to talk to you about the paid partner of this episode, BetterHelp. I've been in therapy for most of my life, since I was a child really. The benefits of therapy are so profound and really help us live better lives. That's why I chose to become a therapist myself, to help others. But therapists also go to therapy, and when I need to talk things through with a professional, I choose BetterHelp. When my mom had cancer, I needed to talk to someone to unravel my thoughts, my worries. I was traveling a lot and I spent a lot of my time commuting, or I spent it with her, looking after her, supporting her. That meant I was away from my home, from my friends, from my routine. My life was on hold and I didn't have a support system for myself. That's why BetterHelp was the best choice for me at that time. All I needed was my phone or my laptop and access to the internet. I didn't need to travel to someone's office. I didn't have to scroll through endless directories, and I didn't have to break the bank either. After a short questionnaire, BetterHelp matched me with a credentialed therapist based on my preferences within 48 hours. which is usually how long it takes to get matched. But if for whatever reason you want to change therapist, you can do so with a click. It's that easy. I love that I could book and manage my appointments based on my schedule. And I could even access group therapy sessions that are organized by topic. BetterHelp made it easier for me to look after myself when I was looking after my mom. If you need support, let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist. Visit betterhelp.com/SoMeta or use the code SoMeta and enjoy a special discount. And now, back to the show.
Because I was actually having a conversation with someone, recently, and I was apologizing for not being there when they needed me as a friend, not as a therapist, because they were going through something that I couldn't relate, I had no experience on, and I was afraid to mess it up. So I didn't do anything to help them. And I realized that actually if I did anything at all, it would have been better for them and for our friendship than doing nothing at all. So it's not always getting it right. It's just being there and listen. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I love that quote.
But don't you also find, Luca, that nowadays, so I see it more from COVID, that people are really struggling with communication and they miss communication. And I think also because of technology, and that maybe makes people act awkward on social media, is that they want that personal interaction. I want to be able to touch you and touch your shoulder and look you in the eyes and feel your emotion and not do everything through a screen. I think there's a huge lack of communication nowadays, and people desperately want to feel heard and seen and cared for.
Yeah, I agree. However, I mostly work online. So although I understand that concept, I'm also on the other side. I'm like, I also understand why people don't do that sometimes, because it's so much easier online to be there in a way more efficiently, because you can reach people everywhere in the world, wherever you are. You don't need to get ready and travel. You can be a lot quicker in your actions. But that physical and personal connection is kind of coming apart nowadays. Yeah.
Yep. We need to be able
So,
to hug.
oh my God, I love hugging. I love hugging. And I used to be a very, very physical person. I'm Italian, so I'm a very physical person. There's, in Italy, I think there's quite a lack of understanding of personal space.
Yes.
Like there's no personal space in Italy. Everyone touches you. And when I came to this country, it took me a bit of time to realize that British people don't love that, and they don't understand the touching part. They sometimes they misunderstand that. So now I'm trying to take a step back and restrict my physicality. But I agree. I love touching people. I love hugging people. It's just that I think not everyone is used to it now.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's also a safety thing, and this is my space, and don't come into my space. And yeah, we can talk about this for hours, Luca.
Yeah. And you know what? I love consent for that. I love to have like a conversation with people now and say, okay, is this okay? Can I touch you?
Yes.
It's really important. I think that's actually key to break that awkwardness and like, oh, do I touch people? Don't I touch people? Should we hug? Should we, so asking people is just okay. I think I know
Yeah.
some people might think it's weird to ask people, can I touch your hand? Can we shake hands? But some people don't like that, so it's totally fine if they don't want to.
Yes.
So maybe asking people would be the best way
Yeah.
to approach that. I don't know.
But I do think most of the time it just comes naturally
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
not
I
overthink
mean,
as much. We shouldn't overthink stuff as much.
that's true. That's true. I love when I'm with my, my really close friends, and sometimes family, where we don't actually need all of that. We just know each other and we're just comfortable with each other. And so, a hug, a kiss, holding hands when walking in the street, even as friends, I think it's lovely. It's just, it releases so much oxytocin in the body. So
You
that's why we feel
see?
good. Yes.
Yeah.
But also it's just something that people find weird now. So it's this, you just have to make sure that the other person is okay with it. Yeah.
Comfortable.
Yeah. So when you are with people, when you're supporting other people, how do you do that? Do you do that online, or do you do that in person? Do you go to a community space? How do you help other people?
My speaking engagements are as per invitation, but it is very important for me, Luca, when I do go for a speaking engagement, that I spend time at the venue afterwards for those that would want to speak to me. And normally I do find that people, in the past, I did open the floor to some questions, and some did come through, especially from the teenagers, the high school students that I speak to. But I do find that people want that private chat because they would ask for advice most of the time, or just share that they are also struggling and that they can relate to what I had said. So that's very important for me to keep that personal connection. I always say, whenever I get invited, it's important for me to know that there is support when I leave, because a lot of what I speak about it's very open, it's very honest. I say it as it is. And a lot of people sit with a lot of emotions afterwards that they don't know what to do. There may be
Yeah.
students who admit to being an addiction. There may be even the older generation, if I can call them that, then who then come and say, listen, I think I really do have depression or a mental disorder and I need help. So it's very important for me that support systems are in place wherever
Mm,
I go. And when I leave, that those that are the most vulnerable will be taken care of. And
right.
then through what I do online on my social media platforms, Luca, a lot of people talk to me. A lot come with their stories, with their hurts, asking for advice. And normally they do reach out to me via DM. They want me to keep the conversation private and confidential, which I always do. And even I think I just made from the beginning, when I got onto social media, made that call that whatever you put in the comments or that you ask in the comments, I will answer, but I don't mention names. I think because of the field that this is in terms of addiction and mental health, it is not something that you want to announce to the world. Luca sent me
No.
a question asking about suicide, So I do keep those. I respect the confidentiality and the vulnerability in which that communication came from. So
Yeah,
that
that's
is
hugely
how it
important.
comes to me.
I love when people, put so much of themselves into what they do. And I know what you're doing is not easy. It's definitely not easy. But I'm also sure that your work has major positive impact on other people's lives. When you do this work, you said you need to make sure that there's support in place. So how is that support in your country? You live in South Africa, right?
Sure, Luca. From a personal point of view, I went through quite a bit of an experience where it was in April of this year that I had to find support for a person who was struggling with mental health, who needed to see a therapist very, very quickly.
Mm.
And I was very vulnerable. I actually spoke about my whole experience on social media just to portray what the
Mm.
experience felt like for me and how hurt I was by it, and how I realized how many people out there are struggling. And when how desperately they need help. And many people that do commit suicide did not find the help in time. And that was
Yeah.
the issue for me. There are phenomenal doctors and medical professionals and therapists in our country. To find them without medical aid, I see now from interacting with a lot of people who ask me about it, it is definitely a concern. If you don't have a medical aid or insurance, you will really struggle to find support and help that you need. And then on the
Right.
other side, when you do, it is when you do have medical aid and insurance, it's an extremely costly exercise. It is really, it can break the bank. And I get a lot of that, Luca, that people do say, I don't have money, or I don't have insurance, I don't have medical aid. And I am sometimes torn between I don't know where to send these people and where to, because then they go to states and government, hospitals and facilities, and they do not get the same support that those with insurance and medical aids get. So our situation in our country, I really would say, look, I need improvement. And I think we are losing too many people because of the lack of help that is available. What is your experience where you are?
It's very similar, except that our system here is a little bit different. So we don't really work with insurance for medical reasons most of the time. We do for private care, but not for public care. But with public care is extremely difficult. In at least this is my experience, and the experience of my friends. It's really difficult to, like you said, find the help needed, especially in time. When I personally went through these myself, so when I felt suicidal, I remember my GP sent me to a volunteer who would listen to people, but they didn't have the proper training. And it was only like 3 appointments. And that's never, enough, especially when you're suicidal,
Yes, yes.
And when then they refer you to charities, because a lot of this is picked up by charities, the waiting lists are unbelievably long. And I remember I was referred to this charity and they said, okay, we will see you, we'll put you on a list and we'll get back in touch in 6 months to tell you where you're at in the list. I was like, I'm suicidal now.
I don't have 6 months.
How am I gonna, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be here in 6 months.
Exactly.
What am I gonna do in the meantime?
Exactly.
It's just unbelievable how it works. And then you go to your GP and they say, if you are suicidal and you think you're going to take your life, these are the numbers you can call. And
The hotlines.
Nobody calls those numbers if they want to do it. People that call those numbers, thankfully, they're not going to do it in a way that, they just want to find help. But a lot of those people, they think they either are beyond help or they don't believe anybody can help them because there is no infrastructure for them to go through this,
Absolutely.
So it's hard. And as a therapist, I don't work. I'm not medically trained. I'm a therapist, and I deal with non-emergency issues. So when people come to me with medical issues that need medical attention and they can't find the doctors, it really upsets me so deeply because there's nothing I can do to help them. I can help a friend by being a friend, but someone I don't know, a stranger that comes to me, and perhaps they are on the other side of the world, perhaps they are in America, and they send me a text and they send me a message and they say, please help me, I'm feeling suicidal. We can talk for a little bit, but then there's nothing I can actually do to help them, especially because I'm not in the country a lot of the time.
Yep.
So it's so difficult. It's so difficult to,
Very. We are in this very much in the same boat, Luca. I
yeah,
can fully relate to that.
yeah.
And then you want those support structures to take over and they are not there. And that is when that feeling of helplessness then sinks in. What could I have done more? Where are they? It's as if the support is not enough and just not there.
And this sounds horrible, and maybe I don't know. It sounds almost like
Conspiracy.
conspiracy. That's it, conspiracy. This might sound like that, but I think sometimes the system is made to be overly complicated. So there's almost like a natural selection. This sounds horrible, but there's almost like a natural selection, and people are naturally filtered. Those that can go through that process and have the patience and the resilience and the strength to jump through hoops in order to find the help they need, they might get something eventually, but a lot of them they won't. And it seems like the system is made overly difficult and overly complicated, so that natural selection will happen by itself. This
I
is
agree
the
with
way I
that.
feel.
Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with that. But don't you also find, Luca, that I think mental health conditions are just getting worse and worse? And I feel like the world has not woken up yet and realized how serious this problem is. It affects,
Yeah.
it goes younger in age and it goes older in age. There's not a certain just a gap of people that struggle and are mentally unwell. That it just
Mm.
gets wider and it is more. And I think we talk about mental health every single day. You read something about mental health every single day. It is around us every single day. But if I experience that still that penny has not dropped as to just how serious the mental health crisis is. Are you also
I think
experiencing that?
100%. And I think there's a shift, there's a cultural shift that is happening, and people are realizing that mental health is really important and there's nothing to be ashamed of in asking for help. And I think they're realizing that mental health is health. You know, it's no different than having a physical injury. But I still think that the system doesn't work. The system for mental health doesn't work the same way that the physical health system works. And there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of, putting the blame on the patient. Like, oh, you're just acting this up because you want some days off work.
For sure.
It.
The
And I
shame
heard
and the
that so many
stigma is
times.
still there.
Yes. And it becomes really difficult to open up when you have people telling you, when you have doctors telling you, I don't see any evidence of your issues. You can take a few pills, but I think you just want some days off work. That's what you do. So I'm not gonna give you any days off. You're just pretending. This is how it feels like sometimes, and it feels really horrible. It feels like they're blaming you for
Feeling
pretending
the way you do.
or feeling the way you do. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. It's really hard because where do you go there?
Yeah.
What do you do then?
Yes. I must say, on a positive note, when I posted that video that day and
Mm-hmm.
being so vulnerable and just expressing what I'm going through, how people interacted with me after, who first off could relate, who said they also feel so frustrated and they don't know where to go. But how people, and in my community, and obviously those that follow me see the video, how all of them just came together and started looking for help for me. I phoned
Oh,
this
wow.
one. You can phone this one. This is the previous doctor that we went to. I heard from a friend, this is where you can go. The responses were amazing. I was flooded with comments, with DMs. People phoned me, people sent me messages. I got voice notes of support, and I just got these lists and lists of try this one. Why don't you do that? Should we do that? How can we help you? That, for me, in a long time, I have not seen something like that, Luca, for how people come together and how people really want to help other people.
That's beautiful. That's amazing. The only thing I can think is you have very special people around you, and obviously you find a way to earn their love and respect and care, because a lot of people don't have that. And it's a good reflection on you, but also them. It means that you found your people, and also you managed to get them to love you.
Absolutely. But I also wanted to show that it is okay to ask. It is
It is.
okay to say, I am struggling. I don't know where to go. I don't know how to fix this. I want to fix this, but I don't know how to. And how generously and without hesitation people are willing to say, I'm here. How can I help? I
Mm.
don't know how to help, but I want to help. And I
Yeah.
think that also came through with that it is okay to say, I can't, I don't know, this is how I feel, and I need help. And there's still a lot of shame around that, Luca.
So
I think
much.
many people feel that they cannot say, help me.
I agree. I've done a survey a few years ago. I just finished training as a therapist, and I just wanted to understand what people really needed help with, and how they find help and that kind of stuff. And I was so surprised when I read the results of my survey. Almost nobody would take actions to improve their quality of life. Almost everybody, they answered they will wait to ask for help until they feel suicidal, or until they feel like they are out of resources. They have no more hope to actually get out of their issues by themselves. And that really got me, because that's exactly what you don't do. That's
Yes,
exactly what gets you in that position of feeling suicidal.
yes,
It becomes so much harder for anybody to help you, because it's beyond most people's scope, beyond most people's capacity. Which it blows my mind that most people would rather wait until they feel suicidal to actually say, okay, I have an issue.
yes, yes.
If we
It's
talk
very
about it a lot
scary.
earlier, it's so scary, because if we talk about it a lot earlier, when the issue is this big, we can squish that, we can face it, we can just do something about it. But when the issue becomes so big that you're willing to take your life, that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with.
I think many people feel that they don't want to burden others with their stuff. And they're also scared of shame, like you said. But it's
Yeah,
your fault that you're feeling that way. And you caused this. And you are not
yeah,
doing anything about it. And you're not doing anything to feel better. They're scared of that. And
yeah.
especially when you are struggling, that's the last thing that you want to hear.
It
So
totally.
I think there's many reasons that people don't reach out.
Yeah. But on the other side as well, you can't help somebody that doesn't want help.
Absolutely. Thank you for
It,
saying that.
there is just nothing that anyone can do. You can't force people to seek for help or accept help. Like you can't force people to accept love. You know, it's just it has to work both ways.
And
So
unfortunately, many people really need to be on their lowest of low to ask for help. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
like you said, they don't come soon enough. But for some, especially when it comes to addiction, that's what we refer to as rock bottom. You need to hit rock bottom before you're ready to say, okay, yes, now I can go to rehab or I can find the treatment that I need. I agree with you. Absolutely.
Totally. And I think, it's nice that people are thinking about therapy as an option now, and it's much more available for most people. And we talk about mental health a lot more, but still we haven't made that shift where we're like, we feel that there is no shame. We know because we hear it a lot of the time, but we still feel the shame in, talking about issues with others. And I think once that shifts, and once we realize that actually if we help each other, it's less painful and it's easier. Because, if you just deal with your own issues and you decide not to deal with anybody else's issues, then it's almost like quicksands. You just go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
We're not created to be alone.
No, we're not. We are a social animal. We are not supposed to do everything ourselves.
Exactly.
So once we realize that creating a community where we help each other can actually help us avoiding, bigger issues, then I think the shift will actually begin. But it's going to take some time for people to realize that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, to normalize this.
I want to rush that process, but
Me too. Let's do it. Can we start it today? I mean, this is what So Meta is about also. It's about realizing that people from all sorts of places in life have struggles, and we all overcome issues in a different way. There's no shame about talking mental health and personal issues and, asking for help and how we overcome this. This is it.
For sure.
So I have a personal question for you now.
Okay.
How did you get out of that dark cloud?
I was never suicidal, Luca. I've lost family members to suicide. So I am a suicide survivor, but I was in active addiction. And for me, I was a perfect example of hitting rock bottom to get out of my dark cloud and get out of my habit. I went missing for a couple of weeks. When I lost everything through my addiction, I lost contact and communication with everyone that loved and cared for me and my family, and I was reported as a missing person. And wow. I was eventually found at a house somewhere with someone because I didn't have a place of my own. And the police arrived and my parents arrived and they found me, and I was given a choice. I either go to jail or I go home to recover. And that was my turning point. When I was given that choice, I mean,
yeah.
who chooses jail over recovery? So that was my choice, and that is where I started to turn things around. Yep.
Do you think that there's a possibility of recovery in jail?
Yo, that's a tough one. I would say I would hope so. I think it depends which jail.
Yeah.
I want to see if they actually do encourage sobriety, but I also know that many don't. So it's a tough question to ask me, Luca. I do think you can, but if the circumstances don't allow it, for someone that's vulnerable and that has the disease of addiction, I do not think it will be possible, but I would hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. It must have been incredibly tough. When you went missing, were you voluntarily missing? So I know a lot of people, when they struggle with mental health, they tend to isolate themselves and disappear for a little while. Was that the case with you?
I think I can answer that more from growing up with a brother who had bipolar disorder and struggled his entire life with depression. He went missing by choice due to mental health issues that he had. So, yes, there are two sides. I was both of us voluntary, but the one comes to me, I come from the addiction side, and he comes from the mental health side. And I think that is a very dangerous place to be and to make a call to disappear when you are at your most vulnerable. You find that as well with those that you speak to?
I find it common. That people voluntarily isolate themselves for several reasons. First, they're not able to cope with, the world. They're not able to cope with the world in that moment. They're completely overwhelmed with their own issues. They don't want to burden anybody.
Yes.
They feel ashamed and guilty for their circumstances and for the mental health issues, or even addiction. There's still a lot of stigma around it.
Absolutely.
And and I think they feel hopeless. So I think that's why people tend to isolate themselves and disappear. But ultimately, what I found is a lot of those times things go from bad to worse when you isolate yourself in that moment.
For sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to also look at that from on addiction. When you are in active addiction, you will do anything to support your habit. So anyone that will come across your path to say this needs to stop, or you are destroyed, you don't want to hear that. You are destroying yourself. You don't want to hear that. So you cut all of those people out of your life to protect you and your little drug and your addiction that you are dealing with. So that's the other side of the coin.
That's the other, because that is the only thing that in that moment is getting you through.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we need to
the
talk
only
about
medicine in a way.
Yes. And then that is another thing that people do not talk about, is what is that thing that we need to get through.
Yeah. Secondary
So it's
gain.
easy to say you are an addict and you enjoy the feeling, whatever it gives you, but never did you ask me why.
Yeah.
And I think that is also that's very important for me. Why I do what I do is I talk about those questions that people don't ask. So I would normally refer to, I call the subject of my topics is of my speaking engagements is things that we don't talk about. I like to talk about the things that we do not talk about. And that is one of them. That is one of them. People do not understand addiction at all, and people do not ask the right questions.
That's true. The funny thing about addiction is that it gets worse when you isolate. And there have been experiments on mice, and mice that have been fed with drugs. If they are alone in the cage, they tend to take more of that drug.
Yes.
Whether if they are in the cage with other mice, they choose the food and water without the drugs.
Yes.
So but again, if you feel like your surroundings are not supporting you, then you already feel isolated.
Yes.
Maybe not physically, but internally, emotionally.
Yes. Absolutely.
So that will make the addiction even stronger. I found it so interesting, the link between social and emotional at this point, isolation and addiction. And then obviously that pattern repeats because people tend to then actually actively isolate to support their addiction, because at that point it's the only support mechanism they have.
Yes. Yes. It's very interesting. And I do a lot of self-development. I read so many books. I do research. And when you start to look more into a specific topic, it just gets more interesting. And I think that's also a thing. There's a lack of knowledge, but people don't put the effort in to educate themselves. It's easier to ask someone something than to just, I mean, we've got now chat GPTs and bots and everything at our beck and call that we can ask a question to any time of the day. So there's a huge lack of education as well. I like it when we talk about this stuff because
I love when we talk about
I
this.
educate.
Yes, and people need to hear it.
Yes.
In your case, sometimes, mental health and addiction go hand in hand, and sometimes it's kind of like a chicken and an egg issue. Which one came first?
Yeah.
In your case, which one came first? Which one was it?
I think definitely the mental health. I don't even need to think about that, Luca.
Right.
It was the mental health, because
Yeah.
if something wasn't wrong with the brain and the mental state and the well-being, then I wouldn't have gone out to find the pleasure or the replay to the thing that will fix that imbalance.
Yeah, a coping
Little did
mechanism.
I know how badly it will affect me.
Yeah. Well, you don't really think about it.
You don't.
When you it's the only thing that's helping. In that moment, it's the only
You
thing that's
don't.
helping. So you just want the pain to stop. You just
Yeah.
want to numb.
You also don't
And
think about addiction. You don't think
no.
about it as a disease. You don't think
And most of the
about...
time you think you can control it.
Yeah.
It-
Most of the time. Yes.
Yeah.
You keep telling yourself that.
Yeah. Once I was talking to a colleague of mine years and years ago, before I trained to become a therapist. And I used to work in nightclubs. And my colleague said, oh, I'm doing great. I'm clean. And I'm like, oh, that's great. She couldn't go through one shift without doing drugs constantly. And, it's concerning when you see someone that literally cannot cope with anything unless they do drugs. So I was quite happy to hear that she was clean and she was coping a lot better. And I said, okay, that's great. And then I see her and she was doing drugs. And I was like, you just told me you're clean. And she's like, yeah, but this doesn't count.
Why?
Sometimes you wish to become clean and you don't want other people's judgment. But also you don't see the issue. You don't see that, what you're doing is actually doing drugs. It's
No,
actually
for sure.
continuing.
That's the denial
Yeah,
phase.
it's the denial phase. And that's so dangerous. It's so dangerous because you literally don't see that what you're doing is still drugs,
Yeah.
Maybe you switch.
I get that a lot, even with the chemicals, that people don't agree that certain chemicals are drugs, or that drugs are drugs.
Yeah. I see that all the time.
That it grows in the garden, or I'm sure you will know what I'm talking about. It's a herb, it grows in the garden. And then I'm like, yeah, I can give you 5 others that also grow in fields.
Yeah.
That is that complete denial. And then when arguments start, I just back off, because then I find it's a complete lack of education.
Yeah. Also, it in that denial phase, you can't really have an open conversation because they're not willing to see it.
No, absolutely.
And you're not going to help. If anything, you push them away further because at that point they feel judged. Yeah. And that's the last thing you want to do, because isolation will make that worse.
Yeah.
So if anything, it's just allowing them to come and talk to you whenever they feel ready, without judgment. I think unfortunately, that's the only thing sometimes you can do,
It is. Can't save everyone.
This podcast is brought to you by LucaMindCoach. As a therapist, I understand that talking therapy isn't everyone's first choice. but I also understand the impact of listening to other people's stories and how these can give us the strength and inspiration to find our own solutions for ourselves. And this is why I started So Meta. And for those of you who want to learn how to manage stress and some relaxation techniques, I created a quick self-paced workshop you can do in your own time. Take advantage of a special 20% discount and really learn how to manage stress for less than $40. Use the code SOMETA20, link in the description box.
What was your journey from addiction to recovery and then helping others? What was that like? It's a loaded question, I know that.
Yes,
Take your time.
that's many years.
Yes.
That I need to pack into a few minutes for you. I think my saving grace absolutely was rehab. Luca,
Okay.
I initially I didn't want to go, and then the withdrawals came, and I got to a point of realization that I actually will not survive the withdrawals without medical intervention, which is the fact for many drugs out there. You cannot just stop, you need medical assistance. And that is when I said, I need help, but still not for the right reasons. I thought, okay, going to rehab, they'll just knock me out for a couple of days. And when I wake up, everything will be better. So going to rehab was a massive wake-up call for me. It hurt like hell. It was excruciating. It was therapy. It was solitude. It was loneliness. It was many, many emotions that you need to deal with. And then even getting out of rehab, just surviving day to day in normal circumstances. You need to work, you need to eat, you need to sleep, you need healthy habits. And being an active addiction for so long, I mean, it's the simplest thing that you cannot cope with. I have had, up until this day, the most amazing supportive structure, family and friends and therapist that has been with me on my journey from the beginning. So I'm very grateful that I can have that, and that it is to this day still there for me. And then immediately, actually, after rehab, I was approached for speaking engagements and documentaries. It just happened very fast. And I was at that point willing and able to help others. I realized the need through going through my own recovery. And I traveled for 2 years after I came out of rehab doing speaking engagements. And then I came to a point where I said, I need to stop, because somewhere now along the line, I need to put the pieces of my life back together. And I can't do that just going on speaking on stages, which I think was an enormous healing process also, talking about it constantly. So I stopped doing that. And then I got the husband, I got the kids, I got the life.
Life started again.
I got all of that back together, and it's a day-to-day process. And it is only recently now, it's about 3 years now, that I launched my own business, which is called Semicolon Marketing and Events, because when I launched the business, and it launched out of enormous hurt, emotional hurt that I had, I decided that this business needs to stand for something that's bigger than me. And the semicolon symbol stands for addiction awareness and suicide awareness. And that is when I decided I also want to be a voice for a cause. And I want to be the voice for the semicolon. And that is where I am now. My business consists of different parts, and one of them is being an advocate for mental health and addiction awareness. And I use my voice for that. And I think to this day, it still helps, because every day that I talk about it, it opens up hurts. I mean, I take myself back to that time. I take myself back to rehab. My family hears this over and over again, but we have come so far that we heal, but I do realize that we still heal every day.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
a process.
It's a process. That's amazing. That's amazing. I respect what you do so much.
Thank you.
So it seems like, although you had a hell of a journey, really painful, but it seemed like you had help through your family. You had some support, and you had the opportunity to go to rehab. What would you suggest to those that don't have that?
I would always advocate for rehab. I would always advocate for therapy. And I do, because I get that also, Luca, is a lot of people say to me, I don't have support, or people that get hurt by their family so badly. I do still, even through all of that I've heard and that I've seen, I still believe there is support for those that feel that they do not have support. There are free groups. There are hotlines, like we said. In South Africa, I must say, there's a lot, and they are advertised and they are always available. I feel like I want to say there's always a me. It's not necessarily me, but there is a me somewhere out there for you who will support you. And every single person, I will always say this: I don't believe anyone in this world is here alone.
That's great. So I have a complex condition that I've discovered I have in my mid-20s.
Yes, I read about that.
Yeah, so I have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder, which causes me to have plenty of physical injuries, which are very painful.
Wow.
And I also have fibromyalgia, which is still a combination of chronic fatigue and chronic pain, but they're completely different pains because the fibromyalgia is not a mechanical, physical injury. It's more like a perception of pain rather than an injury. So I was on drugs for a long time. There was prescribed drugs, but I was still on synthetic opioids and a combination of antipsychotic medications that are on a lower dosage. They become painkillers basically. And I was 27 when I was given this cocktail of drugs, and they said, well, you're going to be on it for the rest of your life.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
It's really important that you don't mess up with the dosage. You keep it constant so you can't stop it and start again. And even if you feel more pain, go back to your doctor. Don't just take an extra dosage because that will be really bad. That can translate into addiction, and it will spiral from that. So it was a lot to take in when you're 27, and 1 minute you're like, okay, I'm all right, and the next minute you're on this cocktail of drugs and it can kill you. And if it doesn't kill you, you'll be addicted basically for the rest of your life.
Wow.
It's a big responsibility to say.
Yo.
Yeah. So, and opioids have so many, even synthetic ones, they have so many side effects. So your life is not totally normal. Your life is not going to be totally normal, So it's a big adjustment.
How did that affect your mental health?
Well, I was depressed for a very long time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The medication messed me up completely.
Yeah.
Before getting the medication, I didn't think I would survive this because I was in constant pain all the time.
Yeah.
And that's when I became suicidal because, I was out of work. My doctor said I was 25 at the time. My doctor, when they diagnosed me, they say, you'll be disabled for the rest of your life. You'll probably live on a wheelchair for the rest of your life. You can't work.
My gosh.
You can't. You know what? It's all bullshit because I said, you know what? Watch me.
There you go.
I'm quite feisty. If someone tells me I can't do something, I like to prove them wrong.
Yes, I
And
like
I think
that.
I think that's what saved me, because if I believed the doctors, I think I would have been more depressed. So I did fight this for a long time, and then I realized it was too much to just fight. I had to accept my condition first, and
Yes.
then accept that I needed help. I needed to do some rehabilitation. I needed to change my life, really, to
Yeah.
change my lifestyle. And then from then I could build. And now I go to nightclubs, I dance again, I can walk again, I have a pretty normal life.
Yes.
Even though I have to do constant physical therapy, and they're
Yes.
very, very expensive. But, I have a pretty normal life.
Yeah.
But, this, when I stopped my medication, because I decided I couldn't take them anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I had to stop them because my doctor would not sign them on time. So I would send my request, and then I would have to wait for my doctor to sign my medications, to my prescription, so I could collect it. And sometimes it would take 4 or 5 days. And those 4 or 5 days of withdrawal from opioids,
Oh no,
it's
that would make you
devastating.
so sick.
It would make me sick for like at least a week or 10 days after.
Yes. No, those withdrawals are the worst.
It's painful. It draws all of your energy. You can't really do anything. You just end
Yeah.
up in bed in pain for days.
Yes.
And they didn't quite understand that they had to sign it on time. So one day I said, you know what, if you do this one more time, I'm not going through withdrawal and then start the medication again, because that's killing me. I'm just going to stop, and I expect you to help me get off those medication.
Yes.
And the next month, they forgot to sign my prescription again. And I say, you know what? It's been a week. The most dangerous part of the withdrawal is gone. Usually if you have issues, like health issues that can kill you, it will happen within the first week.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? I've gone through the most dangerous part. So I'm just not going to go back to the doctor. I'm just going to
Yes.
find a way to cope without the medication. It was really hard because I wasn't an addict in a way that I was doing illegal drugs. So there was nothing in place for me to go to. There was no rehab center. There was nothing, no support system. I called a few hotlines, and they're like, we don't deal with these. These are medication prescribed by your doctor. Your doctor should help you through it. And my doctor
And
was
it's
not
a very
available.
real thing, hey?
It is.
Prescription medicine is a very real thing.
It is. And this is huge in America. It's not so big in the UK.
Yes,
But
even here.
it's hard to get off those medications. It's
It
really
is.
painful.
It is.
And I understand why people switch those medication when they can't get the prescription. I understand why they switch to heroin, because it's available. It's most of the time you find it around the corner. You don't have to look hard for it. It's available. It's quite cheap. It's quite affordable most of the time. And it's just there. It's going to stop your pain, but also
For
it's the
sure, it
worst.
is.
It's the
Yep.
worst thing to do.
Yep.
So
But that is also what that drug does,
Yeah.
Luca. Is heroin is, in the end, you don't use it to get on a high. You use it just to feel normal, just to numb that pain,
Which
because
is
the withdrawals
crazy.
are so hectic.
It's crazy
Yes.
how we stigmatize people that just want to feel okay.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do. They want to feel normal.
Yes.
They want to feel okay. They want to
Yes.
feel a bit numb, so they don't feel the pain.
Yes.
And we almost punish them for them. Society
Yes.
does, which is not right.
Yes. And how are you doing today?
Well, it took me a while to get back together, but I did find a lovely colleague that could help me through hypnotherapy. And because the last thing you can do when you're so desperate and so in pain is to do self-hypnosis. I could have done it, but you don't have the concentration to do it. So I asked for help. And she's lovely. She's a nurse. So she helped me settle, and that's how I did it. I just realized that I had to go through it, and it was going to take maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a little bit longer, but I just had to like put everything else in standby, focus on me, focus on getting better, lots of meditation, lots of water, lots of quiet time, also a lot of distraction, to get through the pain. So watching films and, video games or whatever that would get me through and not think about the pain.
Taking warm baths. Did you ever take warm baths?
Have a shower. So very long, hot showers. Because you kind of feel like extremely cold when you're withdrawing. So
you do all the time.
It's horrible, and you sweat a lot. So
nose runs.
Oh my God.
No, it's exactly like
it's horrible.
You could have just used the drug to go through the same withdrawals. Opioid medication people don't understand.
Yeah. So I was lucky because I'm very stubborn, and I thought, you know what, just stick with it, just go through it, and you'll feel better in a few days. And that's what got me through it. But I understand that a lot of people don't have that, and they don't have the confidence to say, I will get there, and I don't need any.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So in a way, I'm lucky because I had a plan in my head, and I know where it was going, and I know it was going to be fine. But when you're by yourself and you got nobody, man, that's hard.
For sure. And there's a lot in this life that you cannot deal with on your own, and journeys that we need to take that we cannot do on our own.
Mm-hmm.
But I think out there might be someone who will prove us wrong.
I hope so. I'm
pretty sure you're right. Out there.
Yes, there's a lot of strong people out there. And, like what you said earlier, people with addictions, a lot of the time, they would do anything to protect their habit. That's a sign of strength and resilience by itself. It's misplaced. But if these people learn to redirect that focus and that resilience into recovery, it's totally possible.
Yes.
And that can be done. They just have to learn that they already have a lot of conviction, a lot of resilience, and a lot of resources within themselves.
Yes.
Because they use it every day to actually support that habit.
Yes.
So,
and then you just you can use the same
to turn it around.
Recovery.
Exactly. 100%. It's a shift in the mindset, but it's how it works.
Yep.
So for anyone out there that they don't think they can do it, I would suggest to start thinking that if they can support their habit, they can also use that to switch to something healthier.
And look at those that have done it, and those that still do it.
Yeah,
it is possible.
It is.
People can show you that it is possible every day. There are survivors every day.
100%. It was amazing talking to you about this. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I would like to ask a series of quick questions I ask to all of my guests.
Okay, but can I ask it back? I want your answer too. That's only fair.
That's fair. So I would say, yes, you can. Let's do this. Okay. If you could be anything or anyone in the world, what would you be?
Anything or anyone?
Yes.
Can I have a superpower?
No limits here. No limits.
I think I want to answer it that way. I want to have one superpower. And I want that to be able to, I think maybe there is a word for that. I want to be able to know what people think.
Ooh.
Because I think a lot of things can be avoided before they happen if I had the ability to know that you were thinking of it before doing it.
Okay. I think you do have that power a little bit. You're definitely an empath. So, yes. Maybe you have that low key, but you have it.
And you, anything or anyone?
This is gonna be so shallow, but I'm gonna go for it. I would probably be a rock star.
Wow, I love that. Why is that shallow?
I don't know, because I don't know, it feels shallow. But I think, I would be a rock star because they can do anything, and they have so much power. They are into arts, which is what I love. And once they become successful, they have infinite resources. So they can go into films, they can go into fashion, they can go into charity. They can do so much, and a lot of rock stars are actually very charitable people. So I would love that, because it will give me so much power and influence to make the world a little bit better, and to explore the arts fully. I suppose that's my view.
I like that. I like them more if they use their power to empower.
Oh, yes. I love that. Totally. What are you manifesting?
At the moment, that the doors will open where I need to be heard.
Nice. There will be. I'm sure there will be. Right now, I am manifesting. I want to manifest better mental health for people, and a better, stronger sense of community.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is special. I like that.
Yeah. I think this is what I want to achieve with Soul Meta. Important
And
conversations.
I think you are already doing it.
Yeah. So it's working. It's starting to work. Yes.
Yes.
For both of us.
Yes.
What's your favorite quote, mantra, or affirmation?
I am a huge fan of quotes. So, but obviously I can't remember all of them. I think the two most important days in your life are the day that you are born and the day that you find out why.
Oh. Hello.
And it's a quote by Mark Twain. And I only realized the true meaning of it when I started doing what I am now doing.
I really, really
and
like that.
yours?
Mine is every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. And that's an affirmation from Emile Coué, who was a physicist and hypnotherapist and so on. What are you inspired by?
I'm inspired by people like me. I will never say me because being humble is very important for me. But people like me, people who should have been dead, but just got back up and made something for themselves and help others along the way.
Yeah, I'm inspired by people like you too. I'm inspired by these conversations I have. I'm inspired by other people. I'm inspired by art and music. I'm an artist, so, I get inspired a lot and very easily. And there's a lot that inspires me.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, a lot of inspiration. Sometimes it gets out of control and I go a bit mad, but it's totally fine because, it's okay. I've embraced it.
Yes.
But I love to be inspired, and I love to be inspired by people like you because, you always see something in others that you can learn for yourself and use and get through stuff.
For sure.
I'll be having a moment here. I love that.
Me too.
Okay.
We have had them since you started asking the question.
Yes, true. 3 things you can't do without.
Oh.
No one said it was easy.
But let's have a bit of fun.
Yes.
Coffee.
All right.
Coffee. Books. It is the only thing that makes me shut down because I have a very busy mind. So books. And unfortunately, a very reality at the moment is my phone.
Yeah.
I cannot. It is this, I think that answer is so stupid, but you know what? No phone, I have no connection, I have no voice. You cannot talk to me, and I need people to talk to me. I want people to talk to me. It's like, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
feel
that's the
that.
worst thing to say, is
I
it not?
feel
It's the
that
worst thing to say.
we are all completely dependent by our phones now. It's just the way it is. So for me, it would be connection with other people. I that's something I need. I need art in my life, and I need
Yay.
self-expression.
Oh, and
Yeah.
you do that through the art.
I do that through art. I do that with my hair. I do that with my clothes. I do that with music. I do that in so many different ways. I can't just have one way to express myself. I always have to find new
Yes.
ways. And I love
Yes.
to experiment. So, yeah, I think even a podcast is a way to express yourself, isn't it?
Oh,
And yeah,
absolutely. It's you
and to
and your
find
voice
connection.
and
Yeah.
it's your unique stamp that you put out into the world.
Yes. So many different ways. If you could speak to your child self, what would you say to them?
I had a conversation with her, and she was the reason I launched my business.
Oh, there you go.
Yes. She told me that this is what I need to do, that I love being on stage. I've always liked drama and acting and dancing. And she told me to go back to that. But then again, remember that I needed that cause and that voice. So I brought the two together.
And
Yes.
and today, if you spoke to her today as an adult, what would you say to that child self?
It's not about you.
Oh,
It's you're doing it for them. It's not about you.
nice. So maybe you are not the same as everybody else, and that's okay. You don't have to be.
I like that.
Yeah. When was the last time you cried, and why?
I cry a lot.
Okay.
I cry a lot. But I've had a good streak recently. I think it was 3 weeks ago. And I cried because I was just emotionally drained.
Did you feel
So
better
I think,
after?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It
It's a very good thing.
Yeah,
We
it
should
helped.
cry
Yeah.
more often.
Yes. So for me, I've answered this already. Someone asked me. So I will just say that again. Although things have changed since then, since I recorded that episode. So I sometimes I struggle to cry, especially for important things. It doesn't come out, Sometimes you even try and nothing comes out, no tears.
Yes.
But when I watch films, usually that's when it happens. So to me, what gets me crying is films usually, or movies, or series, or anything that's quite a bit, sometimes not even crazy emotional. But yeah, that surprises me every time. I'm like, why am I crying for a silly musical? Why am I crying for a film? But
I think it's a very good thing. I
yeah.
think it shows that you are so in tune with your emotions, and you are also not afraid to show how you feel. I love crying. I love when people are crying. I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I don't mind when people are crying. I think a lot of, especially maybe British people, don't know what to do when someone else is crying. They feel very awkward.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
but not everybody. But some people, I notice that they feel like, oh my God, what's going on? And I don't have that reaction. But it's not one of my favorite things to do. I don't know why, especially not in public. I that's something
Is
that
it?
I always struggle with that. I don't know why. I think I need my space and my time.
Interesting.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about it, I'm like, should I try and cry in public?
Should I try?
Just be very dramatic in the street. Why not? What gives you joy?
Many things. Many things. I completely live a life of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Tears give me joy.
Okay.
Beauty, nature, my children, my husband, many things.
I love that.
I truly live in gratitude, and I think with that comes a lot of joy.
I love that. For me is many things as well. Knowing that I can be of service and help to somebody else. Self-expression. I couldn't be without it. And connection. When I connect with people on a deep level, or even when I do something in the community that I know it's helpful to somebody, that gives me so much joy. And I'm normally involved with many causes and charities, and I do a lot of charity work or community work. It just some people don't get it. They say, oh, why don't you put that effort into your business, or why don't you do something for yourself? And I do. That's my way.
Yes.
It just gives me so much joy. It fills me up. I have quotes in here that I really like, but I want you to pick one. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, I'm gonna put my hand in.
Okay.
Cool. Let's do it.
Yay. Okay.
Whoa. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Aristotle.
Wow, how powerful.
Yeah. Well, Brescia, it was so amazing talking to you. I wish we could do this every day. That would be amazing. So where can people reach you and find you and learn more about what you do?
I am on all of the social media platforms.
Yay!
All of them, I think.
That's a lot
There's
of
just
work.
maybe one of
That's so much.
Say again?
That's so much
I
work.
know.
Exhausting.
I know. And not one of them has the same content.
Yeah.
It's different content on every single platform. So yes, that is quite a job. And then I have a website. That's where I am.
Yay.
If you want to see me, you are able to see me every single day.
Fabulous. I'll make sure I put links and handles in the description box so people can find you.
Fabulous.
Thank you so much for joining So Meta today. It was such a honor talking to you. This conversation will be inspiring somebody, will be of really great help to somebody. So thank you so much for your vulnerability and your willingness to share your story.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Meta.
Next on So Meta.
Hi, my name's Maddie and this is So Meta. This planet is giving us the breath in our lungs, the bodies that we have to enjoy life. And we're sitting here just like chucking Shein clothes in the oceans and like polluting the entire world. Finding beauty in the imperfection in everything and kind of seeing beauty in your own imperfections and allowing that is such a healthy way to go about life. Perfection doesn't exist. I feel like that's such an unattainable standard to hold yourself to, and if you hold yourself to that standard, you're gonna end up getting ill.
At what age did you realize you wanted to be a designer?
I remember when I was like, I want to say 7 or 8, and if I don't go for what I love, if I don't, at least try that and fail doing so, then I'm always going to be left asking, like, what would have happened if I'd done it? Being happy and being surrounded by people who care about you is probably my success. And I couldn't breathe, I couldn't eat, I was like basically on death's doorstep.
So